Hey everybody, welcome to my very basic guide. In this episode, we'll be getting our fantasy engineering degrees in the subject matter of building our very own magical rock'em sock'em robots. We are delving into the realm of robotics without the hassle of actually having to do program work. These arcane architects that enjoy breathing life into their artificial handiwork are known as the battlesmiths, a subclass of the Artificer. If you ever felt that raising and taking care of a living, breathing animal is overrated and too much of a chore, then building your very own walking, maybe even talking, robot may very well be the life hack that you're looking for as a prospective fantasy pet owner. Being a normal adventurer that enjoys having a four-legged companion watch their back comes with the drawbacks of having to constantly train, wash, and look after their fleshy organisms that sheds its fur, molts its skin, and eats your food, and then defecates in strange places. If all of those events sound like additional trauma that you don't want to deal with, then being a battlesmith will absolutely be a career path that you should strongly consider, as it comes with rather sizable perks for the kinds of people that value raw efficiency with a durability that only magically infused metals can provide. Also for people who are allergic to furry things. Like your fellow traveling buddies, you will have to survive the gauntlet of being a low-level adventurer that doesn't have much going on for them until you reach the 3rd level, where you then get to pick your Artificer specialization and get completely swamped in a flurry of new features. At level 3, it is of course only appropriate that a battlesmith would gain proficiency with smith's tools. It is after all in the title. If you already have proficiency with smith's tools, then you can gain proficiency with another type of artisan's tools of your choice. Obviously, it is only appropriate that a battlesmith actually knows how to work the forge, repair cracks in metallic armor, sharpen the blade, and can understand the tools of your craft, while also conveniently being able to use them as a spellcasting focus for your Artificer spells. If you ever wanted to be the guy that looks at a helmet or the hilt of a sword and remark about its historical importance and cultural significance, then getting smith's tools to give you that hands-on experience with metalworks is a good step in that direction. Moving on to a 3rd level feature with more substantive meat on its platter, we get Battlesmith Spells. This is a subclass specific spell list that adds a bunch of extra spells that you can freely cast as Artificer spells, and they do not count against the number of prepared spells that you can already have. The first 2 spells that you receive right out of the gates of level 3 are Heroism and Shield. Both spells are pretty great defensive options to get early on, especially the Shield spell. Having an extra +5 to your AC on top of the Battlesmith's already decent tankiness is really handy for when you find yourself on the wrong end of a big swing. Getting to level 5, you gain the spells Branding Smite and Warding Bond. Both of these spells are relatively situational and may not be your go-to choice for expending your second level spell slots. Branding Smite is an okay damage buff that reveals invisible enemies and helps the player get the roll into a smith using a branding iron as a weapon. Warding Bond is a very interesting support style spell that doesn't cost you concentration, which is nice. The ability of giving a friend some extra armor class, saving throw bonuses, and most importantly, resistance to all damage for an hour all sounds really great, but the drawback of you guys sharing the damage that your bondmate takes is quite a nasty downside, especially for an Artificer who only has d8s as hit dice, meaning your hit points are not going to be very happy when using the spell. Splitting the damage may be even more dangerous than just letting one person tank it all by themselves, especially for the Battlesmith, who relies mostly on their armor class and doesn't really appreciate taking guaranteed damage, even if it is halved by Warding Bond's resistance. At level 9, you get Aura of Vitality and Conjure Barrage. These 3rd level spells are fine for what they are, but not especially eye-catching. Aura of Vitality allows for a repeatable amount of healing for 1 minute, but requires concentration, and Conjure Barrage is an interesting damage-dealing cone spell, but there are other Artificer spells that compete for your limited 3rd level spell slots as a half-caster. Arriving at level 13, you receive the spells Aura of Purity and Fire Shield. These 2 4th level spells are quite nice defensive options to be getting as a Battlesmith, and complements well with the other stuff in your kit. Getting access to Aura of Purity as a non-paladin is pretty cool, as buffing the saving throws of your party and Steel Defender is really strong in many circumstances. Fire Shield works well with the Battlesmith, as you are not nearly as squishy as a wizard and can actually put the retaliation damage to good use while being on the front lines. Although that being said, both spells do cost concentration and are 4th level spell slots, so it will most likely be used only in big battles and boss fights. Finally, getting to the last tier of your Battlesmith spells at level 17, you gain the spells Banishing Smite and Mass Cure Wounds. If you ever find yourself the need to send people to the Shadow Realm, then Banishing Smite could be the thing you're looking for, but obviously trying to figure out how injured the enemy has to be before smashing the banhammer to make use of its effect might make it more inconsistent than what you would like. Mass Cure Wounds is pretty decent in scenarios where you absolutely need to get a bunch of people back up to fighting condition in 1 turn. The healing itself for a 5th level spell is mediocre, but it's also the only area effect healing that the Battlesmith gets, so it is pretty good to have always prepared just for those, special cases. And that, I think, is a decent enough summary of the Battlesmith subclass spells that they get access to. A lot of really interesting paladin spells the Battlesmiths get, and quite a big emphasis on defensive options to hopefully extend the expiry date of your adventuring companions. Being a Battlesmith is of course a 2-part career, with the battle part of your title being emphasized with the feature Battle Ready. You not only know how to work the forge and anvil, but also the weapons that come fresh from your own oven, meaning that you gain proficiency with martial weapons. Being able to proficiently wield martial weapons instead of just simple ones is a modest boost to your combat abilities, weapons, but it does offer the Battlesmith a more interesting selection of tools to use, especially when paired with the second part of the Battle Ready feature. Battle Ready allows the Battlesmith to use their intelligence modifier instead of strength or dexterity for both the attack and damage rolls when attacking with a magic weapon. As an Artificer, you get easy access to magic weapons really early on through the use of infusions, such as Enhanced Weapon. Being able to have a weapon that does magical damage and also utilize your intelligence instead of the standard strength or dexterity allows the Battlesmith to really be focused on maxing out their spellcasting abilities and constitution without compromising their martial prowess at all. Battle Ready is a really powerful feature to get level 3 and does a lot to make the subclass stand out, as it has a lot of innate synergy with a half-caster base class, giving the Battlesmith the versatility to cast spells with high spell save DC while also having the heft of a regular fighter. And if all of those other level 3 features were not enough, there's still the most distinctive feature of the Battlesmith, which is their most trustworthy companion, the Steel Defender. The Steel Defender is essentially an extra durable punching bag that offers a considerable level of support to any team that wants to entrench their frontline positions and keep the monsters out of their back lines. Its raw stats are fairly impressive for an artificial friend that you receive at level 3, with an armor class of 15 and a hit points formula that is equal to 5 times your Artificer level, plus the Battlesmith's intelligence modifier, plus 2. Your Robotics Club project is also really speedy, as it has a base walking speed of 40 feet. It also has its own pool of D8 hit dice, equivalent to the Battlesmith's Artificer level. The impressive bulk of the Steel Defender does diminish over time since the armor class doesn't improve until level 15, but it is still a hefty pile of hit points that most enemies won't be able to chew through if you play your cards right. The Steel Defender's turn always comes right after the Battlesmith takes their own, and similarly to Tasha's Cauldron's version of the Beastmaster, your Robo-Pet can move and use reactions all on its own, but by default only takes a dodge action on its turn if the Battlesmith did not use their bonus action to input another command. If the Battlesmith happens to get knocked out during the fighting, then Skynet is launched and your Steel Defender can take any action of its own choosing. The Steel Defender also gets a unique interaction with the Mending cantrip, giving the Battlesmith the ability to infinitely heal the Tin Man 2d6 hit points per cast, although the casting time of each Mending spell is 1 minute, so this is more of an out-of-combat pit stop repair job than a life hack. Your friendly Iron Giant is also easily recyclable, allowing the Battlesmith to revive a dead Steel Defender with your Smith's tools, using any spell slot of first level or higher, as long as its lifeless corpse is within 5 feet of the Battlesmith and the Steel Defender only died within the last hour. Your Unfeeling minion reboots in 1 minute with all of its hit points restored, which is really nice, as this means that after every combat encounter, if the Battlesmith is still alive, then the Steel Defender will usually be at full strength. But maybe you're a lazy Battlesmith who cares little for their mechanical servants. Well, don't you worry, as long as you have your Smith's tools, you can just plop out a freshly made Steel Defender after every long rest, although you can only have one Defender at any given time. You know, batteries sold separately and limited edition and all that. The Steel Defender also receives a bunch of tricks from being a construct and not having to suffer from the failings of flesh, such as being immune to the poison damage type and being immune to the charmed, exhaustion, and poison conditions, while also always being on alert, as the Defender is ever vigilant, meaning it can't be surprised as a passive trait. The Steel Defender is also gifted in the arts of being proficient in their dexterity and constitution saving throws, both of which are really important saving throws to get bonuses in, since many spells force dex and con saves. Another interesting piece of this absolute unit is that it gets skill proficiencies as well, with proficiency in athletics and also what is essentially expertise in perception. It receives the Battlesmith's proficiency bonus ×2 for its own perception rolls, even though its wisdom modifier is 0. The unique actions that the Steel Defender can take come in 2 varieties, with Force Empowered Ren being the standard attack of the Defender and Repair being the healing option. These actions are taken at the command of the Battlesmith using their bonus action on their turn, and both of them are pretty good as far as bonus action usages go. Force Empowered Ren does 1d8 plus Battlesmith's proficiency bonus of force damage. This is a pretty decent attack action since it's basically a longsword attack that deals force damage for only a bonus action. The other unique action that the Defender can take is Repair, which can only be used 3 times per day, but it basically is a Battlesmith's bonus action to heal the Steel Defender for 2d8 plus proficiency bonus, which can quite easily sustain your meatless shield for many early battle encounters without costing you any spell slots. It also has the fun ability to repair other constructs besides the Steel Defender, so that could be fun for a Battlesmith to work alongside their artificial friend to fix something together. It's quite a wholesome image. But the main reason your Steel Defender exists is to protect your frail body made of meat, and its reaction ability, Deflect Attack, helps to live up to its name. Deflect Attack throws disadvantage on any attack roll that targets something that isn't the Steel Defender, as long as the attacker is visible and within 5 feet. So a pretty great reaction ability. Obviously, it means it's super important to stick your Steel Defender close to heavy hitting enemies, but that was always the ideal place to position your mendable friend anyways. The Steel Defender is a cold, emotionless, protecting machine that has logic built into its circuits and action economy driven into its mechanical soul, with really nice use of the Battlesmith's bonus actions and even better potential reactions from the Steel Defender itself. The Steel Defender feature is everything you would expect expect and really punches above its weight class, especially during the early levels. Arriving at the respected station of level 5, you get the old reliable treatment of extra attack. Despite the work that is being put in by your constructed intern as a giant hunk of walking steel, a lot of the battlesmith's damage output will still be done personally, so getting to strike twice is nothing to turn your nose up at, despite how bland it might initially sound. Extra attack is also especially good for an arcane engineer such as yourself, because the Artificer gives the player character easy access to early magical enhancements to your otherwise regular equipment in the form of infusions, and infusing your weapons with extra on-hit damage is a great way to make the most of your extra attack, and is probably something you were going to do anyways, so the extra synergy is greatly appreciated. Getting to level 9, your battlesmith lessons allow you to channel your knowledge of magical electricity to better aid in either defibrillation or electrocution in the future Arcane Jolt. Whenever you land a hit with a magic weapon, or if your steel defender hits a target, the battlesmith gets a choice of either giving the damage roll an extra 2d6 force damage, or healing an ally for 2d6 hit points within 30 feet of the target that you just attacked. Arcane Jolt is limited into a number of times equal to the battlesmith's intelligence modifier, and you can only use it like once per turn, but you can recharge your arcane batteries on a long rest. So at level 9, 2d6 extra force damage is not insignificant, but it's also probably not going to turn the tables on some of the fiercer foes you will encounter at this point in the campaign, especially with the limited number of times you can actually use them. It is considered extra damage, so it does get doubled on a natural 20, meaning that you can choose to save your Arcane Jolts for when you or your steel defender get critical hits. But on the flip side of Arcane Jolt, there's the healing aspect that gives it a sort of healing word type of utility. Obviously 2d6 healing is not a lot, but the ability to heal at a range of 30 feet from the target as part of an attack that doesn't cost you a spell slot is a very interesting proposition. The potential value of reviving a dying ally on the front line is a pretty good deal, and gives the battlesmith a lot more utility without really costing them anything on the action economy side of things. Finally reaching the vaunted level 15, where the battlesmith gets their last Artificer specialist feature, the subclass goes back to its robotic roots and gives you an improved defender. As the name suggests, this is a buff to your good old steel defender and gives the depreciated sentinel some much needed hardware upgrades. The improved defender feature comes in a package of 3, with the first one actually being a buff to the Arcane Jolt feature that the battlesmith receives at level 9. This bumps up both the damage and healing of Arcane Jolt to 4d6, so now that's 4d6 extra force damage or 4d6 extra healing. That's not the biggest increase statistically speaking, especially at level 15, but it does give the battlesmith some additional utility that does not eat into any of your other resources, so definitely something to be happy about, I guess. The rest of the improved defender feature is for your steel defender, giving it +2 to its armor class, making your mechanical pal have an AC of 17, which is, a lot better than 15, especially given the increasing deadliness of hostile parties that you guys will surely be confronting at such high levels. The last of the trifecta is that your steel defender's deflect attack reaction ability gets buffed as well. Instead of just slapping disadvantage on enemies trying to hit something that is not the defender, the deflect attack reaction now actively hurts them, dealing 1d4 plus battlesmith's intelligence modifier of force damage. With an intelligence score of 20, that's still only 1d4 plus 5, which is not a lot at face value, but the ability to consistently deal extra damage that accumulates over time using the steel defender's reaction, while also crippling the enemy's attacks with disadvantage when they try to ignore your metallic guardian, is a very effective taunt mechanic that hopefully goads enemies into bashing the machine instead of the flashbangs behind it. And that about does it for this very basic guide on the Battlesmith subclass of the Artificer, as presented in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. In summary, the Battlesmith's job is to provide your adventuring party with a beefier frontline with many features befitting your role as a fantasy engineer, such as a steel defender being your, fantasy robot, and also spells dedicated to maintaining a strong presence on the battlefield while handing out defensive support buffs here and there. Once again, thanks everybody for the continued support on these videos that I do in my spare time. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to do more in the future. And as always, I hope that anyone who watches my stuff enjoys what I create as much as I enjoyed creating in the first place. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye for now.